Okay, guys, we're back with another show tonight on It's a Trans World podcast. We have an amazing guest with us, Shareef Phillips, and his pronouns are he and they. So he is non-binary, and he's going to talk to us tonight about a topic that I think is needed, topics that we talk about quite a bit. I'm Raquel, your host. My handsome co-host, Malik. He is here. You can't see his face tonight, but he is here, but you will hear his voice. Malik, give us current events and shout outs, buddy.
All right, current events. Want to go over here, talk about the Eurovision. Not sure if you all heard of that, but the Gay World Cup. Why LGBTQ plus audience love Eurovision. So that's a thing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. So what's popular amongst the LGBTQ plus communities, many have related LGBTQ plus, particularly gay male, admiration for Eurovision and its camp, nature, and reliance on excess. So
where does this take place?
This is, hold on one second.
Wow, I didn't know any of that. This is my first one.
Why this is taking place like in Belgium, France, Italy,
Europe.
It's a whole competition. Correct. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that is actually a thing. Is LGBTQ plus friendly and is taking its own wings. So we're gonna give a shout out to that. The LGBTQ plus audience and the love of Eurovision.
Ooh.
So that is the thing. So we all need to pay attention to that. Maybe we can spread that around the world since they're trying to keep our and the youth out of sports and everything. So yeah, I love the Eurovision.
Yeah. Speaking of sports, and I don't want to get sidetracked, and I just want your opinion. And we don't have to go into great detail, but do you feel that a trans woman should compete with cisgendered women? Everybody don't talk at the same time.
I'll let our guest go first.
Oh boy. Okay. So I guess it's the loaded answer for me. I think general answer, I would say, yeah. I think that they should be able to compete with cis women. I mean,
okay.
And maybe I'm not gonna say maybe I'm problematic in my way of thinking, but maybe I'm just a little more open. If that is who they are and who they identify and feel that they are, then why is there some sort of distinction, I guess, of their performance in that particular sport or their respective sport? So I mean, I'm way more open to that, and I get.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Malik, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go? Because I'm actually very passionate about this topic.
I know you are.
Because I'm an athlete. I'm an athlete, right? So this is the deal. Like being trans. So a trans woman. Still born male, period. Can't change that. She is going to be physically stronger, faster, because she was born a male. It is not fair for a male, someone born male, to compete with someone born female. And the prime example is there's a swimmer, and I can't think of her name right now, but there's a swimmer. She was ranked like as a male when she competed with men. She was ranked like 5,000. She started to swim with women, cisgendered women, and guess where her ranking went? Number one. How is that fair? It's not okay. What are your thoughts, Malik?
Yeah, I agree. Although I am a transgender male, I actually agree with that. That's a sticky subject.
It is, but you know, at the end of the day, like at the end of the day, you're either cisgender male female or transgender male female, and there is a biological difference. Period. It doesn't matter how you identify. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. So I struggle with that a great deal. And when I'm talking to people, sometimes they think I'm insensitive, but then it's like, look, man, at the end of the day, you're trans, not cis. So it's just not biologically fair. And in the swimmer, I mean, I swear, like, I'm not joking. He was ranked, like, as a male, he was ranked 5,600 something. And then when he started to swim with cisgender women, he became the #1 swimmer.
Yeah, it's a very sticky subject because, you know, then it brings up the questions like with the bathrooms and just so many other things that transgender people are fighting for, you know, to have the rights to live as they identify. So it's a very, very sticky conversation. But I that's something I think I struggle with as well, because I'm trans and because I want myself and my counterparts to be treated equally and to be able to have access to the things in which they identify with. So for me, you know, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
But I also understand your point of view as well.
Yeah, I think what I really think should happen is there needs to be competition so especially in the Olympics and competitive sports, I think we just need to add a transgender group. And then that way it's not unfair to anyone. Because the truth of the matter is the cisgender individuals get the short end of the stick in this regard when trans individuals get to compete with them. And I know this won't happen, especially in our lifetime. They will not spend the money, invest in having competition just for trans individuals. That's not going to happen. And I'm a realist. It costs too much money to do that. But at the same time, I do feel like you need to compete in a category in which you were born, because that's the only way it's fair. Or perhaps not compete anymore. I don't know. I mean, that's difficult too if you're an athlete, but it is a sticky subject and I am really passionate about it. I've been on a sports podcast and as a lesbian having this conversation. And I think it's important to have the conversation with people in our community, number one. Because if you're not in the community, then I think you should just shut up. Nonetheless, let's get going, man. We're going to talk about discrimination in the workplace with our guest Shareef and some of the trials that he has gone through. But before we get started, I want you guys to know that we lead with love on this show, and this is a safe place. We have lots of conversations around love, mental health, physical health, community, and what support looks like in our community. We're always open to topics that you all want to go over. But tonight we're going to talk about discrimination in the workplace, education, just period, as a non-binary identifying person, because Shareef identifies as non-binary and his pronouns, again, are he and they. So Shareef, jump in, man. Just give us your insight in what you've experienced as far as challenges, discrimination that you face in education, community, workplace, across the board.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, y'all again. I don't think I will remember each sector, so you may have to remind me as I go through it. But I'll start with community because I guess that's kind of where it started. community being this rainbow family, Black queer folk, I think that crazy enough where I experienced some challenges or adversities, meaning I was always placed in either one or two categories, that either you were cis gay being or you were of a trans man or trans woman experience. There was no in between kind of gray area, I guess, is what they try to categorize it as. So for me, they're like, oh, so you like to wear this, you like to wear that, you must be trans woman. Or sometimes when I would be quote unquote butch or mask presenting, oh, well, so I don't get it. So what are you, or what do you have going on? So that's when I first was introduced to like, oh, I didn't really think I had to give much of a label to it. And then it wasn't until I met someone that was kind of like me, living like a non-binary experience or transcending a non-binary space, was till I was like, okay, yeah, this is a space for people. This makes sense. I feel like non-binary people, in my opinion, are treated like the middle child. Like, they're there and you love them, but they sometimes forgot about. And
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so that was really my introduction into the non-binary space. And that's when I'm going through this within my own community, then what is this going to look like in these other sectors, right? So it made me want to it made me really struggle with my identity, because I was like, okay, if my own people aren't understanding who I am or how I identify or the experience I like to transcend, then what are other people going to say? And granted, I shouldn't really care, but of course that was the time where I'm still figuring myself out. I'm not really fully like mentally grown where I should be and knowing what I should know as far as language and identities and all this other stuff. So it started there first. And I like to always say, like, I feel like I'm like in the community of the oppressed, because I'm Black, and then I'm queer, and then I'm feminine, so in the Black community, you being feminine and you being queer, that's a no-no. Just for me growing up specifically, my family being very religious. Yeah, that's just like, it's really, it's sad, but it's true. That's the kind of experience I've had. And imagine trying to explain to your family, especially religious folk, oh, well, I'm non-binary, so I transcend different binaries. They can be like, what the hell is that? Like, what explain that to me. What's going on? How do you, just say you're one or the other. And that's the same thing my own community did as I was trying to figure out my identity. So it's kind of like the parallelism of both worlds, whether it's your family community or whether it's your friend community or whether it's your colleagues within the community. That's been my experience as far as community, being a non-binary individual. And I can go through each one.
What about employment?
Yeah. Ooh. So I've mostly been in predominantly white corporate workspaces. So, you have those girls who like to patronize and make you feel like they're a part of your community and they will stand with you. And then you have those girls who are just like not for it. And they will, and I use girls as the universal term because there are guys in there as well. But example, there was a guy, I'm not going to name him, of course. He likes to assert his dominance. He likes to assert his, I guess, heteronormative spirit on people. So he will serve me to death in a meeting. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. I'm like, is this just his word? Like, this is lingo? Like, I say girl after everything mostly. So I'm like, well, maybe this is that. So I'm not gonna budge. But then the tone started to change, and then it started to be condescending and like how he would refer to me, or when we're in a meeting, oh, he or they, or what was it? I'm sorry, that, and that happened several times. After I correct you the first time, I don't feel like I should have to correct you again. But I match energies, so I'm gonna correct you every time if you're going to continue to misgender or misappropriate anything I have going on in my life.
Right.
So, it's been a very tough space, like work-wise, just because sometimes I get tired. Like, I get tired of like correcting people and educating people. Sometimes I'm like, is my representation not enough? It gets tiring. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. So, now I'll introduce it to you once. And if you don't get it, then that's on you. But if I don't answer you or I don't respond to you or whatever, then you know why, because I've set a clear boundary with you of who I am, how I identify. So that's been the general work style. And it's been pretty much working for me as far as, I'll say this point. for me in the workspace, pronouns and being non-binary, of course, I go by he and they, but I'm okay with other pronouns as long as you are respectful. Your tone isn't, you're doing it to be derogatory of any way or anything like that. So you can call me girl or she or whatever, and I'm okay with it. So I think that kind of throws people off too, because I guess I'm not giving them a direct vision of what I'm supposed to be. And I'm like, that's the whole idea of me being a binary, babe. You know, like it could be this one day, it could be multiple things at the same time. Two things could be true at once for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the workplace for non-binary identifying individuals can be very difficult. And you'll find yourself having some condescending conversations, like you said. And that's tough, right? What about, have you had any, as it pertains to healthcare, have you had any like indifferences as it pertains to healthcare?
Sure. So something specifically that I'll make 2 points of this. One, a lot of the doctors I've been to, you know how you get the documentation and you kind of identify who you are, what your experience is there. I never see anything, or not yet, anything that says MX. It's always he or male or female or she, or, you know, maybe sometimes they'll put a trans experience, maybe. But I think that's like the first kind of exclusion that I have when I go to like doctor's offices or things like that. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, I know that I'm okay with going by anything, but sometimes I wish there was some sort of formal inclusion on these documents to make me feel like, okay, yeah, this is a sector for me. This is something that's actually really cared about or talked about in some sort of space. But as far as me receiving healthcare, there was one disrespectful being, and she, I don't know what her issue was, but I came very clammed up because I was coming from somewhere trying to do 2 things at once. And she just kept looking. She didn't say anything. She asked her general questions. She went down the line and she would just do the bombastic side eye and not really say much, but just continue to go down the list. And I'm just looking, I'm like, is there something wrong? Like, I'm thinking something wrong with my charts. I'm thinking, you know, like the worst. I'm overthinking everything.
Right.
And she's like, no, I'm curious of something. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, instead of staring at me like a weirdo, we can clear this up, you know? And she's like, oh, how do you identify? And granted, I put male on the paper there. So I guess I don't know. I guess that confused her. But the fact that I felt, now this person is supposed to be my primary care doctor and you're uncomfortable in having a conversation about who I am, what my identity is, then now I'm kind of not as trustworthy with like my healthcare or how you pertain to me as far as anything I need help with or any kind of resource, because you're not, I don't know. It tore down some trust for me because it didn't give you actually wanted to learn. It was just, you were personally curious, not you want to learn to be educated. So if there's others that come behind me of this kind of experience, you'll be able to know better, do better. It just gave judgmental energy. It didn't give you're trying to figure me out as a person.
Yeah, I think like, and we talked about this earlier, as a lesbian, I live in, you know, I'm privileged. I don't have to explain one way or another. I don't have to bring it up or talk about it. So I have not really experienced any of those discriminations as a lesbian Black woman, because I have gone under the radar my entire corporate career, which in my corporate career, I worked with predominantly all Caucasians. Even in my political realm now, I'm a commissioner here in South Carolina. I sit on the board for foster children. And it just never comes up. And it's not like it's something I hide. Hell, I mean, I talk about it openly, but it's almost like they avoid it. It's not a topic of discussion. It's just avoided completely. So it never comes up. So I haven't had to deal with any of those concerns or issues. And when I go to the doctor, you know, the one thing that is funny, and I kind of got tired of saying, like when you go get your physical and your and your doctor says, do we need to put you on birth control? I told you I'm lesbian. I don't need birth control. How many times do I have to tell you that? Like, I've said that for 2 years. I don't need birth control. And that's about the extent of what we have gone through. And I do feel like at some point it started to feel offensive. Like, didn't I tell you, the last 4 times?
Yeah.
Then I don't,
so what are you doing charts for at this point? Is it not in like my log?
Right. What about you, Malik? Have you had any like education, healthcare, employment, community where you were discriminated against?
Actually, no. I was with the sheriff's office, and my transition started while I was at the sheriff's office, and I just had a overwhelming support from the sheriff to the chief. Now everybody didn't like it, but those people didn't matter, because directly I was the sheriff's right-hand man, and so everybody else had to fall in line. So much so till we started working on and put policies in place to protect our LGBTQ plus community that came in jail. So, I was fortunate enough not to have to go through anything like that.
I love that. It's like when you talk to other people, other community members, it's always not a great experience. So I'm always happy to hear more uplifting, positive spaces. And it seemed like you've really transcended that space and made it your own, and others to come. So I love that.
And it's very important for you to know your rights and, familiarize yourself with local laws and regulations that protect you, in the workplace, and stand by it. You don't have to just allow them to walk over you.
Yeah.
You have rights.
Yeah. Sometimes though, I think we alienate ourselves, and we kind of take our rights away from ourselves, not so much other people, because sometimes I think I've seen people in our community walk in shame.
Yeah.
And that alone takes away some of their power. Because if you're walking in shame, you can't expect, Billy Bob and them to treat you different. You have to stand in it. And I'm a firm believer of that. You got to stand in it. And when you stand in it, they can either stand in it too, or they can get the hell on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I mean, I think just overall, I think a lot of people are facing discrimination and challenges in the workplace, healthcare, education. And it's a conversation that people by now should be accustomed to. I think when the military changed and, you didn't have to hide that you were gay, straight, lesbian, whatever you were, it was okay. I think at that point, the adjustment should have started happening across the board in corporate America, wherever people work. Like, it shouldn't be a big deal who I sleep with. I don't know why that is such a big deal for people. But nonetheless, I mean, we live in a world that is not accepting of us. We live in a world that, Malik and I talk about this all the time. Trans women are not safe in this country. They are not safe. They are under attack. But I'll tell you what, so are gay men. I mean, just like the young guy that just got stabbed to death because he was dancing. So, I think our trans women and our flamboyant gay guys are simply under attack in this country, and they're discriminated against every single day. And it's important for us, Malik and I, we walk in a lot of privilege, for us to stand up with our brothers and sisters who aren't being treated fairly, for us to speak up when we see it happening.
And thank you for knowing that, and also holding yourself accountable, because there's people that won't even acknowledge the privilege of how they exist and how they show up in the world. So for you saying that and knowing that Malik is also the same, that's wonderful. I wanted to speak to you just now what you said about just trans women not being safe and feminine queer men not being safe. I went to Morehouse College here in Atlanta, which is a predominantly all-male institution, and I was a part of this board. It was called Morehouse Safe Space. We were like the gays of the campus, running everything, doing everything. And we decided that, well, historically, Morehouse has had a lot of issues that I don't even have to name in regards to just being discriminatory against queer bodies in general. And we decided one year, I think this was like my 2015, 2016 sophomore, junior year, we decided we wanted to do a Pride Week. I'm not even sure if it was in June. I don't think it was, but we just felt like, let's make it a Pride Week. Let's have events around it. And we had this thing called Hump Wednesday, which is, everybody comes out to the main courtyard of the school. They play music. And usually it's like this straight folks out there every Wednesday doing their thing, playing their music, strolling, all this other stuff. So we decided we wanted to have a Hump Wednesday that was for Pride. So we wanted to J-Set and we wanted to Vogue and we wanted to just celebrate us being ourselves. And there was literally several it was almost canceled, and thank goodness it wasn't, but they called J-Setting a provocative art. And that just goes to show that how much more we have to go as far as educating others. And it's not even about, I don't even care to educate those who are choosing to be ignorant. I'd rather spend my time choosing to educate those who are just not knowing and maybe want to know more, or they may have been introduced to a way that was problematic and now they look at the whole entire experience that way. That's kind of how I navigate throughout life. But I brought that up because it just really made me think of, even though I was at an institution that I'm paying $40,000 a year at, I'm still not accepted for being who I am because I don't represent the typical Morehouse man, Renaissance man. And I did like 2 different articles of BuzzFeed, and I was probably at administration every other week, like, because as some sort of radical, because I was just being myself. And the name of the article is literally what happens when you don't want to just be a man at an all-male institution, navigating non-binary spaces, right? So, yeah, there's a lot. I still like to say there's a lot of work to be done, even on these, at HBCU specifically. I can't speak to any other kind of educational experience, but HBCUs for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we could talk about this all night, to be honest, because we are constantly being discriminated against, not just in our communities, which is even worse that we're discriminated against in our communities, but, in all the things that we do. It's unfortunate, but I think we have to keep these type of conversations going. Nothing changes until there's dialogue. I'm a firm believer of that. Nothing can change if there's no dialogue. So we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep making these topics of discussion. And when we have the opportunity to step in the room to make a change or make a difference, or to speak to what needs to change, we have to take those advantages and do what we can with them in the spaces that we're in. Yeah. So, Shareef, thank you so much. We are super excited that we had the opportunity to speak with you. I've been following you on social for probably close to a year at this point. Since we started the promotion and pushing out Trans World Atlanta, our TV series. I started following you then, so I'm always on your page kind of looking to see what you got going on. So thank you so much for joining us. Malik, let's talk about sponsorship before we wrap this thing up tonight.
All right. Yes, here on It's a Trans World podcast, we are creating a safe space for our trans brothers, sisters, and our non-binary counterparts to be able to tell their truths. We would love to advertise your business on It's a Trans World podcast, and we're also looking for community partners and sponsors. For more information, reach out to myself or Raquel. You can follow us on social media. Raquel, RAQUELRT3, at Trans World ATL, at @OneGorgeous_ChurchBoy BOI, and that's the number 1. Also, one click away to subscribe for our YouTube channel at Dreamcatchers Production. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. I had my phone in my hand just now because we have another guest that's ready to chime in. So again, Shareef, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. It's always a good time at the cookout. We call this the cookout because, when we get together as Black folk, we eat, we talk, we laugh, and we have conversations. It's no different than really being in the salon or the barbershop. But until next time, we want to leave you with this. The Trans World Podcast is to educate those about the transgender and non-binary experiences and to highlight the importance of equality, because we're all human. Despite how we identify, we are all human. We want to explore diverse experiences, challenges, and triumphs within the community as well. We love doing what we do, and we love doing it with you. So until next time, I'm your host, Raquel. We will see you with another topic of conversation on It's a Trans World Podcast. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.